Can't wait to see you there in person. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez.
The viewpoints expressed in this program are the opinions of the people expressing them, and not necessarily those of Fresh Air Incorporated, its staff, or its board of directors.
The Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along today. Today is December 6th, 2022, and a beautiful day here in Minnesota. Beautiful, especially for me, because I've got a great show. One of my favorite people in the world should be joining me momentarily, and that's my brother, Wain McFarlane. Everybody knows Wain. Everybody loves Wain. Wain is a force of nature, a musician, artist, just a good guy. And he's here to talk about the show he's doing tomorrow night at the Dakota in downtown Minneapolis. The show is unique and special. I want you to know about it and to show up to enjoy what will promise to be a phenomenal expression of love and of culture, vision, of artistry, of mystery. Wain brings it all every time. Again, the show is tomorrow night at the Dakota in downtown Minneapolis. And one of the things that's special about it is that this being a family show, he's introducing to Minneapolis Clark, who is a granddaughter who lives in Arizona. Her partner is Brother Scott. He's on the program with me today, as is Clark, and also Wain's son, Miles. And so 3 generations involved in the show and more, if you consider all of us in the audience. So it's going to be exciting. Let me start, though, by letting you hear a little bit of Wain. Let's roll the tape. A little bit faint. I didn't really hear it that much, but that was from his tune called Dreadlock, Cowboy. Hopefully Wain will be joining us momentarily. We're waiting, but in the meantime, I want to bring in Clark, who's going to be here performing. Clark is a, what's the right word for it, a multi-talented, multi-genre artist. She's a dancer, she's a poet, she's a singer, she writes, and her partner and producer is Scotty. Both of you are here. Listen, so good to see you. Good to meet you. Thank you for being here. Yeah, and I'm so excited. Welcome to Minnesota, Clark.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us first and foremost. It's always a pleasure to chat with you, Al. And we're just happy to be here in Minnesota for the first time. It's a beautiful, beautiful city. You know, it might change my mind about the cold.
Well, what happens is that, you know, once you get here and figure out that you can put up with it, you just figure out where to buy the skis, where to buy the ice skates, you know, where to buy the gloves, and get out and enjoy it. It really is a wonderful and beautiful town. But of course, Arizona, you know.
New Mexico.
New Mexico, Albuquerque.
Yeah, Albuquerque. Yeah, right. It's very similar, you know, all deserty, but you definitely don't ever see, you know, -9 degrees. That's not a thing out there.
Well, listen, what is going to happen tomorrow night at the Dakota? You're going to be introducing yourself, your artistry, and you and your partner, producer, artist Scotty. Tell people what's going to happen tomorrow night on stage with you.
Yeah, for sure. So Scott and I are life partners, but creative partners. So everything that folks will hear tomorrow night at the Dakota Jazz Club is going to be our collaborations from our heart, from our experiences. The creative company that Scott started is called Better Sense. And so we operate under that umbrella. as far as our creativity and all of the elements that you see with our presentation. So he does all of the production. We write in sync. So you'll see that we have a very unique sound, but it definitely harkens to our, R&B, neo soul, pop,
Jamaican,
yeah, all of that. Both of us, as you know, we have a Jamaican
Heritage.
blood. Scott does too. So,
Scott, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Welcome to Minnesota. Good to meet you.
Yeah, likewise. I appreciate you for having us here.
Yeah, well, take a minute and talk about yourself, Brother Scott, and I'll ask Clark to do the same. What's your story in music? How have you come to music, and how have you come to creativity? What's your vision? What propels you to create and to do and to be the person that you are continuing to become?
I appreciate that question. I like getting that question a lot. I would say that I was born into music because I have an older sister who's 10 years older than me. She was already a virtuoso in her own right in terms of piano. So I kind of picked it up from ear from her, being so much younger. She didn't really want to teach me, but I kind of didn't give her a choice. But so I didn't really start taking music seriously, like as a craft, until I was maybe in high school. I joined, middle school band and all that stuff, but I didn't really find it a passion until I had like sports, which I was equally passionate about, to compare it with. And I realized, like, you know what, the NBA doesn't really seem as awesome as like touring and like creating and expressing myself. I feel like as Black men, we're kind of in a position where we don't know how or are taught how to express ourselves from a healthy space. And I found that music allows me to do that. In terms of my vision, honestly, because I got my music degree in New York. I moved to LA directly after that, and did the rat race of the music industry and placements and trying to
Were you born in New York? Is that where you?
So I'm an Army brat. I was born in Columbia, South Carolina. My dad's family is from New York by way of Jamaica. Mm-hmm. So I spent my college years out there to get closer to him and to that side of my family. Because as a kid, I was in Brooklyn a lot with my aunts and uncles, but I feel like you appreciate things differently as an adult. So I wanted to give myself like an adult time in New York City and get that whole vibe. But my vision has been taking everything that I've learned from music school and the turning down horrible deals and publishing deals and all that stuff, and like kind of giving it back to people that that haven't necessarily done it. And I would advise not to do certain of the mistakes I've already made. So really my vision is trying to expedite other talented artists in making decisions that I, one, wish I would have made, and two, made but wish I hadn't made. So it's kind of nice, like meeting somebody, well, you've known each other for decades,
a long time.
On a creative front, like being able to have somebody like Clark who is talented and kind of an extension of my production. Like I like, when she's in the studio with me, it's almost like I'm able to use her voice as an instrument to like the ideas that I have. On the business side, like we've been able to maneuver her in a way that like took me 3, 4, 5 years to get to, but she's been there just the first year because we're not going to do this, we're going to do that. No, we're not going to take that show, we're going to do this show. And now we're able to get her like minimum we're able to negotiate and have a little bit more leverage with her, even though she's like her creative entity is so young. You know what I'm saying?
We're doing a lot.
I've had her on stages that like I was saying took me almost half a decade to get to, but now she's like doing college shows and negotiating big stages, you know what I mean, like festivals and things of that nature. So it's been cool.
Phenomenal. I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation with Al McFarlane, and I'm talking with Clark and Scott. They are performing tomorrow night with Wain McFarlane, my brother, the Dreadlock Cowboy, down at the Dakota in downtown Minneapolis. And they want you and I want you to show up and be a part of this phenomenal musical family experience. It's called A Family Affair, and I'm excited about what's going to happen. Clark, let me ask you the same question. What's been your musical journey? When did you discover your relationship with music, with art, with creativity,
Yeah.
and how has it taken your life and moved you into the human being that you are today?
Thank you so much, Al. Yeah, I get asked this question a lot, but I started singing like as soon as I could vocalize, I was singing. As soon as I mean, literally, my mom tells stories about me just bouncing around, in her belly. And that's just been the energy since then. I wrote my first song when I was like 6. And I remember the song that I wrote when I was 6. And it's not very good, so I won't sing it now. But I hold on to that because that's, that inner child, when you connect with your like passion and your purpose, we so often we go through life and we get away from that, right? But I always keep that in my mind's eye and in my heart because that really is my center. And I've never like loved anything more, and nothing's ever been more present. So I wrote my first song. I continued on to do, dance and to, write songs, be in every play that I could, every stage, singing the national anthem wherever I could, growing up. That led me into, high school. I went to the Public Academy for Performing Arts in Albuquerque, graduated there in 2010, and really honestly kind of lost that connection with my center. I just got caught up. I'm like, I need to do this, and I have these expectations from, these people that I need to be a doctor. I need to do, how that goes with creatives. And so I eventually I was like, I have to step away. And so I went to the closest place where I could be in proximity to music. I got a job at a radio station and ended up actually having a morning show and operating radio stations. And I was like, I don't want to just be on the back end. I have this fire inside of me and this gift, I want to be on stage, like all of, my idols that I grew up seeing, and so that fast forward, Scott and I reconnect, and it was just like this buzz. We just have this like magnetism. We're magnetized one another. And we've just been creating ever since. We had a setup at home, and we would just get in the zone and just create. And, he had been doing it. So I kind of had to show him, like, I'm worth your time. I'm worth your amazing beats. Like, let me get on that. I got a piece,
I always say that I redshirted her for about a year.
Yeah.
Before she can actually get into the game.
He's like, are you serious though? Are you serious about your craft? And I proved to him, but more importantly to myself, that I am serious about it. And I love music. I love writing, expressing, performing, connecting. The type of connection that you experience through music, there's nothing else like it on this realm. So now I'm here, and I'm going to perform with my family in Minnesota at the Dakota Jazz Club tomorrow, and I'm so excited.
Well, it's going to be exciting. I was listening to what you're saying. It reminds me, I tell people about Wain's discovery and awakening. And here's the story. I'll tell it. I like telling it. We grew up in a Pentecostal church, right? And so, holy rollers, right? The dancing, the shouting, the praising, etc. We were at a church in Kansas, and everybody was just shouting and dancing, and it was like, a cacophony, just this massive sound and movement. And, I can't even describe how it was, but it's just chaotic, but makes sense at the same time. And so after a while, the pastor, the leader of the service, tried to calm people down and change the tune, the vibe, and people started quieting down. And finally it got really quiet, but there was one little sound left. And Wain was sitting on a folding chair at the edge of the circle, snapping his fingers. He was 3 years old, I think, saying, "Shake, rattle, and roll." Shake, rattle, and roll. So he was into it. And what he was hearing was shake, rattle, and roll. And because it was so quiet, his voice just magnified. And so I said, oh boy, here he is.
Yeah.
So that was his announcement, him being announced to the world, to the cosmos, as a person with a mission. And I've watched Wain in his music for all of his life anyway. And I keep telling people that I've never seen a person so able to craft an experience, an event, an activity out of seemingly whatever is there, but it transformed into something even more purposeful and more valuable. So that's what I always expect when I go see Wain. That's what I'm expecting when I see you tomorrow as well, because I think it runs in the family. It's the gift of the Spirit and the presence of the Spirit, and it's a reflection of your and our intent to both be receptive, to acknowledge, and to pursue, the calling, right? And to also be resolute in that pursuit. And finally, as we attain stage by stage, to always give thanks for the experience, the joy that we know that we learn. And what I just did in that description, guys, is make reference to my favorite musician, John Coltrane, because I described four things. I described acknowledgement, pursuit, resolution, pursuit, and song. What you know about that, Brother Scott?
Hey, Coltrane, Chick Corea, and Herbie Hancock. That's my Mount Rushmore.
All right.
Nothing like them.
Right.
Legends.
I mean, you could even throw a little Freddie Hubbard in there.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Awesome. Well, so I ask artists all the time, what happens when you're on stage? I'll ask you this question in two parts. Mm-hmm. What happens when you're on stage? What are you feeling? What are you doing? What are you learning and knowing as you're delivering an engagement to audiences? That's question number one. But then also, what happens when you're creating? When you're sitting down, pencil and paper at a table or at a keyboard or a computer, and your intent is to create, how does that happen? How does it work? Go ahead, guys.
Well, okay. I want Clark to answer this, but I will say that for me, Erykah Badu stands out because she had a quote where she said, recording music is about perfecting a moment and performing music is about expressing a moment. So I tend not to overthink it in that way. I kind of just dive into like those words when I'm in the studio and when I'm on stage. Mm-hmm. Like for me, I think that she teaches me how to be a better performer because she's like a dancer and like most of it has taken place like expressing that. And for me, it's like I spent so many hours behind the microphone in a room in LA trying to pitch songs to like labels that it's like I've mastered like the recording process. So we kind of have an equilibrium there.
It's beautiful.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
we do this dance for sure.
Yeah, but I think that I want Clark to kind of give more detail in terms of like what happens on stage.
Yeah. On stage, man, what happens is that like you asked, what am I thinking? What am I knowing? Right. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, and this is both conscious and subconscious, but I'm thinking, I'm grateful, like I get to, number one, have this powerful gift. Number two, share this gift and connect, right? There's, of course, the jitters and the nervousness and the self-doubt and things like that come up. But one thing that I just lean on is that like we are all connected and we are all one. But what makes that one so spectacular and beautiful is all of the little unique pieces. Mm-hmm. And I am unique. What I have to bring to that stage, no one else can bring. What I have to share is powerful. It's heartfelt. It's raw, and so I really just try and focus on that. I have a friend, I won't say their name, but they, kind of got psyched out recently. And I just was speaking to them, but also reminding myself like, hey, nobody else can do what you can do. And so it's like, you're not comparing. Now you're not saying you're better than everyone else, or you're
Mhm.
not putting it at levels. It's just literally your uniqueness, like
Mhm.
what you have to offer. No one else has to offer. So what do you have to be scared of? What do you have to be nervous about? You know, people,
And nobody knows how you feel.
no one knows how, they can't see that. I think we feel like that on stage, and that there's just this like,
Yeah.
this uh pathway like into our soul, and people can just see our, as Lauryn Hill said, they're just reading the words of our diary out loud. But it's like, there's power in that, because haha, I already put the words of my diary in my song. So I'm already I'm already sharing that with you. And it's just so special. I kind of go into this zone. Sometimes I don't even, Scott will get me fresh off the stage, and he's like, dang, babe, you killed that, or you so well. And I'm just like, did I? I was
You're in
there.
the zone. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're in the zone. Yeah.
yeah. So it's a beautiful experience. I'm so grateful for.
I'm Al McFarlane. You're listening to The Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm talking to Clark, who's performing along with Scott. They are a producing artist partnership, a couple, creators and producers, and they're performing tomorrow night at the Dakota Jazz Club in downtown Minneapolis, part of an evening event curated and led by a master artist, Wain McFarlane. And it's promising, I'm sure, to be a wonderful, magical, mystical event. It always is, and I think you're going to enjoy it if you get in and be part of this experience tomorrow night. So call the Dakota and reserve your seats, get in, show up, have a good time. I'm interested in continuing to learn more. We'll put up on our screen the details of how you can get down to the Dakota and get tickets. It's on the screen for those who are watching on any of the digital channels. But Clark and Scott, thank you both for being here. I want to get back to more of your experience as artists and how you grow. What are both the barriers and what are the opportunities? What gives you pause, makes you doubt? You used the word doubt once, Clark. And then how do you get past that? And to what's compelling you to move towards the future?
That's a good question. What are the
Before you answer that, I was telling one of my friends that you and I were on the program. You were on the program back earlier this year, or
Yeah.
maybe, and we talked about George Floyd. This was maybe after the sentencing of the officers, and that you were on along with another cousin you've never met who's in Boston,
Yeah.
along with a cousin you've never met who's in London, and along with a cousin you've never met who was in, I think, LA or San Francisco.
Yeah.
So it was a family conversation then, but I said, Clark, straightforward, clear, no hiccups, no hesitation. And she jumped right in on it and threw down. So that's what I'm expecting from you. Just letting you know that I remember how you showed up and how you were just clear,
Yeah. That's me. I mean, it runs in the family. I'm seeing, and it's so wonderful. It literally just makes me buzz on the inside, the connections, and the kind of superpower that I see in you and I see in Wain and, other members of our family, to, that gift of expression of just really thinking in such a unique way and connecting with others, holding space to tell stories that matter. And so I'm just so grateful, first and foremost, for that. But barriers, you said, and opportunities.
Yeah.
I think barriers, if we're looking at it from a very physical world standpoint, I would say those barriers are for me, because I'm a very sensitive person, it's like the rigidity of like the construct that we live in, and the ever presentness of everything that's happening in the world. The heaviness of what happens in the world can be fuel, but it can also be heavy. It can weigh. I know me personally, it's, even though I've experienced so much, it's just hard to only create from like pain, if that makes sense. And because I'm so sensitive to what's happening in the world and things like that, and it's kind of crazy times, that kind of gets me down. I'm like, man, this just again, and what I'm talking about. It's like, it's just so much. But then what I do is just focus on like the immediate people around me, people like Scott, my anchors, my newly found family, and all that there is to be thankful for, and all of the wonderful experiences I've had. And my power of being so empathic and so emotionally tapped in becomes a gift, because then I'm like, okay, like I have this unique perspective. I have this unique ability to just push through, to cut through. And of course I'm honing it. I'm not learning. I'm not, not a master yet. But, so that's there's always that opportunity to grow, to share, to express in a different way, to explore myself, and in exploring myself, helping others to do the same. I think that's what music really is. It's like you hear something and it resonates with you because you're in tandem, kind of living those experiences, even if you don't personally know this person, and so I think that's just what's really special about creating in the music realm, especially because there's literally physical vibrations that come from my inside of me. And like physically, it's not just, oh, we're hearing and the music sounds great. Like my tone and my vibration, I'm impacting whoever is hearing that, and Scott, my mentor, has taught me so much about like, what do you want that, like, what do you want to do with that? How do you want that to hit? How do you want it to be interpreted? How do you want people to vibe with you? Like, what do you want to say from your heart, or in what you don't say, what is that saying? So that negative space. So
I love negative space. I'm like I'm like less is more when it comes to producing. Even like my friends will come to me and like, yo, I got this.
Lean into the mic, Scott. Yeah.
I was just saying, like, I even have friends who will come to me with ideas, and I'm like, all right, well, take that out.
Less is more, right?
So the negative space, I think, is important because, not only are we aiming to find the right words and the right emotions to tap into and express over these records, but also I think that the negative space in these records is just as important, because it's like, I think just from speaking from my own perspective, like when songs aren't over flooded with like the artists like me, I, it leaves blank space for me to superimpose myself into their positions
as the listener.
Yeah, as the listener.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
There was a guest I had last week, a Nigerian sister who has a business teaching conflict management. And she said it, what you just said reminded me of her. You said you employ and engage the negative space, right?
Right.
That we shouldn't fear it.
Yeah.
Because people assign a value to negativity,
right,
which is maybe inappropriate,
right,
or it's not all there is anyway.
Or it's synonymous with good and bad.
Right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be that way.
No.
It's just different, right? It's something else. And so she said, the same thing with conflict. How do we use conflict in a constructive way? And not always see conflict as something which has a winner and a loser,
right?
A victor and a victim. But how do you see it as a process, and a process that generates results, values, experiences that are beneficial? So Cool. I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation with Al McFarlane. My guest, Clark and Scott, a producer artist team performing tomorrow night with my brother Wain McFarlane down at the Dakota Club in downtown Minneapolis. Before we continue the conversation, let me ask people who are listening here on KFAI or on any of the social media channels, I'm going to ask for your help. We want to grow our social media presence. We got a very reasonable goal of trying to get 1,000 subscribers to our YouTube channel. So if you're listening now, jump over to YouTube either now or later and subscribe to the channel, like it and share it. We think we can get to 1,000 subscribers quickly. And once we get there, we're going to leap to the next level and the next and the next. That's our goal. That's our intent. That's our desire. But we do this with your help and your participation. And we want you to be part of the movement, the growth of this program, The Conversation. I can tell you that we've been doing this for a whole lot of time here on KFAI. And we also do this through our newspaper, these formats, the radio, the newspaper, bringing quality information, stories, narratives about our people, our stories, our history, and our future to our people every week. And it's been, a work of passion, work of joy. And we have always sought to expand that and to bring more people into this opportunity to share and to grow, to find out what we can do by being together, how we can together create futures, narratives that lead to our victory, our winning. And I smile when I say winning, because the winning I'm talking about doesn't depend on anybody else losing.
Mm.
How can we win?
That's so powerful.
And really win. Everybody can win. And it's a question of how we approach it and what our intention is. And that means we really believe that every human being both deserves and has a right to be her or his or their best self. And we ought to obligate ourselves to ensuring that all we do supports that in each other. Well, again, if you're listening here on KFAI or across any of the social media channels, go to the Insight YouTube page, subscribe, like, and share. Help us move to our goals with subscribers on our YouTube channel for The Conversation. So what do you guys do on social media, Clark and Scott?
Social media, the beast of social media, right? We actually we're doing great things nowadays as far as, photo shoots and taking our creativity into that direction.
That's kind of what I was going to say.
Yeah.
We found it more effective to collaborate with other artists and other mediums to help our social media, so it doesn't all feel like on our shoulders. So we have like a handful of photographers who have become good friends that we kind of just like reach out to and like kind of help that group economics in our creative community circle around. Like, our money goes to them, and then hopefully that money goes to another creative, things of that nature. But like, it's been helpful because there's some really talented photographers, videographers, painters,
clothing designers.
You know what I mean? So it's like, if we can garnish those relationships in an effective way and, do some what's the word I'm looking for?
Cross
promotion, right?
Yeah.
I think that.
What's your website? We might pull it up and share some. I've seen your photography. It's stunning. I mean,
so my website, or our brand website, is bettersense.com, BTTRSNC.com. Currently we just launched, it's like a soft launch of our merchandise. She has some merch on there. I have some merch, and then we have like some of the team merch on there, but really just trying to like fill out this roster of artists. There's myself, there's Clark, and one of our brothers, Daniel Thomas. He's a very talented producer, artist, and things of that nature too. But really it's like the collaboration, I think, is king when it comes to social media
and content. How hard that is to keep producing it.
Let me ask my producer Yasmin if she got that information, and can she pull your website up if we can look at that. But a question she put, Yasmin said, ask Clark, who's your audience, and what are what is your favorite song?
Yeah.
And do you consider yourself part of the hip hop genre? What do you think?
Oh yeah. Okay, so my audience is honestly anybody. I think the way that we've approached like building the sound in Clark is anybody who likes music, who um, feels, connected to music regardless of genre. I think that's our audience. Obviously you gotta like some soulfulness. I rap, I can spit, and I'm coming into that as I grow into myself as an artist. So yeah, definitely there's some hip hop influences. I've learned from the best, so this guy, but I write all my stuff. People are surprised, when they hear me rap.
They always think I write.
They
it.
always think he writes for me. I'm like, hey now.
That was that year of redshirting that I needed, because it's like I'm not gonna write it all because I know it's gonna happen. You're not gonna get the fulfillment that you want from not writing the music. So like, let's just write a bunch of bad songs that you can call bad until you write songs that you say
that are good. Yeah. So I write myself. Obviously, we have songs and projects that are collaborative, and we go into together. But yeah, we each write our own. One of the other questions is, I consider myself part of the hip hop community. Absolutely. Come for me.
Hip hop, in my opinion, is whatever is trying to push the culture forward. And Better Sense as a brand, that's pretty much been our mission. Like, how do we push the culture forward in a way that's like elevated? Like, we don't have to rap about putting down our fellow people and killing our fellow people and robbing our fellow people and stealing our fellow people's woman or man or whatever. Like, we just kind of approach it a little bit differently, but like we may attack some beats that may like feel traditionally turned, but
listen,
you gotta listen, because we're gonna drop some gems about our lifestyle, which isn't quite ordinary.
Yeah, we're plant-based. We're natural enthusiasts. We we just approach life from a very holistic and from the internal first, right? And which makes sense because we're artists, right? So we're in here a lot.
Let me ask you, Minnesota is likely going to pass new laws legalizing recreational use of marijuana. It's been on the discussion, never successfully, but I think your state, it is legal.
Yep.
What's your thoughts about that? I'll tell you my thoughts so that you know where I'm at. I think that we should have done this a long time ago. I think that I want our state and our country to take care of the people that have been jailed or punished or fined because of these laws. I think the laws that we had were laws that were suppression and oppression of opportunity and of life for our people and people in general. So I'm glad this is happening. What's your take on it based on your experience in New Mexico?
I think I'll take this one because I just started a company with two of my friends called Indigo Cannabis Club. So we opened up a dispensary. I'm the creative director of that space, kind of tying it into like the creative and cultural relevance in the culture, because like, in the cannabis culture, right? Because most of the dispensaries are very stark, very stale, kind of like you're walking into a dentist office, and our space is the complete opposite. From like a legislative standpoint, I agree with you, and I think that it should have been done a long time ago. I think that, like most of the laws in this country, they're utilized for marginalization. And with that said, I think that like the country as a whole should like make it legal, but I think that it won't happen until your Budweisers and your, big tobacco companies and all of those people are in a position to kind of like get in the game in a way that benefits them.
Right.
But I think until they're on like being on the outside or in a position to like make the most money on the inside, and now we have, what's that popular cigarette? Newport's, Newport brand marijuana cigarettes at your gas station. I think I think it's going to be tough to get it federally legal, but I think that we're on a way because, we get people from Denver or from Colorado and Texas and things like that who, A, don't have the top tier product that we have, and B, don't have access to it. They come to our space in our state to just get some relief. A lot of these people are elderly, especially in the space that we're in. We have people that have been smoking since the 70s who are like, man, I can't believe it's this easy to buy it now.
Yeah.
And I've had people who come in and kind of have the same conversation where it's like, man, we should have done this a long time ago, and we got to free the people that are in jail for a point, or something like that.
And I think we got to create business opportunity for our people. This is one of the places for reparations to occur. And so I think that as Minnesota develops what its posture and policy will be, we, the Black community, should be at the legislature telling them to ensure inclusion and with an eye towards an articulated intent to repair the damage, reparations. I think, and we should model that for other cities and other communities around the country as well.
100%. I have to agree, because if we, and I'll just say this really quick, but I just think that has to be at the forefront, because in all of, the other states, I know that even just from you going through the licensing process, there's that marginalization there. They're denying, I think there are like 90% of Black applicants. So we just can't have that moving forward. That's not equity. That's not inclusivity. And it's ultimately going to lead to the detriment, because we know when we're in the space, we elevate it, right? And we deserve that place and that seat at the table.
Well, I'm going to raise the same questions to our next guest when he comes in a few minutes. It'll be the new police chief for the city of Minneapolis, Brian O'Hara. He's coming here from out east. I think he was in Newark, New Jersey. I've heard great things about him. Haven't met him yet, but I'm expecting to have a good conversation with somebody who's both committed, aware, who's been vetted by our political leaders, and will be one of the people educating the public about how we achieve public safety and public service in the city of Minneapolis. We got a video of you. Well, first of all, Yasmin was asking to ask you what the story is behind falling. Is it falling or failing? Falling, yeah.
Oh, okay.
What is falling, and what's the story behind it?
Falling is, I don't know any astrology buffs out there, but I'm a Pisces. My birthday is March 9th. So I'm very flowy, very intuitive, very hopeless romantic. I love. I'm very squishy is a term that we use on, how I feel on the inside. So falling came from, it was honestly one of the first songs that we collab production. I put the drums, he laid this part. We, did the production collaboratively. But the words really came from a place of just enjoying that initial spark that you have with someone when you connect. And it really just sent me back on a little internal time machine to when Scott and I connected. And I just really wanted to recreate that feeling of falling, and you get into something and it's I'm not even thinking about a parachute, but you're ooh, hope I got a parachute so I can land softly, and but just not caring about any of that, because you're so in love and so enthralled with this person.
We've got a 1 minute and 30-second video. I'm going to ask Yasmin if we can play that now. It'd be cool if we can do that, because we're going to be joined by the police chief. That'll be the end of this segment. Listen, guys, thank you so much. Let's check this out.
Every shade of green, yeah. Ash on my tray, green in my veins, blunt in my lips, help me think straight. Sticky so loud, head in the clouds, flying on one, never come down. Medical, big smoke edibles, feeling incredible, right on schedule. Need that medical, big smoke edibles, feeling incredible, right on schedule. Yeah. Every shade of green got me up so high, got me up so high, so high. Every shade of green Sticky icky. Sticky icky icky icky. Sticky icky icky icky. Fresh pack of papers, backwards all flavors. Fill up my lungs, going straight to outer space. Papers on them factories, plants all in my groceries. Blunt thick like Ari, take away my worries. When I'm feeling low, Mary, that's my best friend. Always got my back when I'm about to go off the deep end. Drop a few tears while I roll up a fatty. This one goes out to all the girls with no daddy. Need medical, big smoke edible. Feeling incredible, great on schedule.
That's so nice.
Ooh,
Wonderful,
perfectly
beautiful.
timed, Al, for our conversation.
Right.
Beautiful, absolutely. Well, hang out with me because we're waiting for my next guest. Hopefully, he'll be here momentarily, but things happen. So, and if the chief doesn't come on, we can just finish the hour out. This is, I'm delighted being with you and to being with you publicly. I call this show, this work I do as an interviewer and broadcaster, having personal, private, intimate conversations with my guests, but having it with an audience of 100,000 people, right? And the intent is to make it personal for all of us so that anybody listening, also feels like I'm talking to you, because I am. Let me remind people too to go to our YouTube channel, the Inside News YouTube channel, and subscribe. You'll get notifications of when we're live. www.youtube.com Insight News MN. And Michelle, thank you for your great works. Notice, appreciate you for being here with us all the time. We want to grow this channel and grow our subscriber base, grow the conversation. In one of our meetings this morning, before this, Clark, we were talking about how we uniquely have the ability with technology to connect with our people, not only here around the country, but as we have done in Europe. We've had people in Europe. We've had people we talked to in Ghana, in South Africa, in Mali. We've got regular contributors with us from Barlovento, Venezuela, and also from Bahia in Brazil, right? And from time to time, we do the program in Spanish and in English. And that's big fun because it gives me a chance to practice my Spanish and show it off a little bit. So that's a big deal. So anyway.
That is a big deal.
Well, and the beauty of it is this. My interest is in showing and modeling to our people that all language belongs to us. Some people put these barriers, I can't do math, or I can't do grammar, or I can't do foreign languages. And I remind myself and tell anybody else, when it comes to languages at least, if a 5-year-old child can speak it, so can I.
Absolutely.
Right?
Might take a little more effort, but we can do it.
But you can do it. It's just work. It's work putting in the time. And in that regard, it's not a mystery. It's just work. And it's not simple. It's complicated, but we are equal to the complication as well. Have you been to Jamaica yet?
I haven't, not yet. I was just speaking to Greg about that earlier, and we're going the first chance we can get, but not yet.
Yeah, well, you'll love it when you go there. You'll love it, and then you'll love it when you get to go to Africa or Europe. Scott, have you traveled? You've been military. What travels have you had?
So my military travels ended early because my parents divorced, but I did have a chance to go to the motherland about 4 years ago. I went to Malawi. So that was an incredible life-changing experience. Puerto Rico, and other than that, like, it's just been like state to state within the U.S. borders,
Mm-hmm. What did you like about Malawi?
Oh my God. They call it the heartbeat of Africa because everybody's so friendly there.
Mm-hmm.
It was a 2-week retreat to build a community center to help out some orphanages and villages and stuff like that. But I kid you not, I had made a good friend there who was part of the organization I was with, named Chippy. And he and I were low-key plotting on me just not ever coming back to America. I stayed out there, man. It's like, I didn't care. It's like, okay, we got to walk how many miles for water? Bet, let's go. Because
it felt so powerful.
It was powerful. Like, I just felt safe. And, it was honestly the first time that I physically experienced being a person and not a Black person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because
Because
even
you're
in
where you're
like
where you're at.
even in America, in New York City, in places that do have big populations of melanated individuals, it's different. Like being in Africa, you know, especially like they saw me as an American, but about 3 days in, you know, Chippy and you know another local there was like, "Oh, you're an African, you're not an American." You know what I mean? Like just because of the type of energy in the heart, like my heart space at the time. But I tell my dad to take me to Jamaica about every 3 months. He has yet to do it. You know, my dad moved to America from Jamaica when he was in his teens. So, like,
Kingston or Montego Bay, or what part of Jamaica do you know?
He's on the Kingston side.
Kingston, okay.
Yeah.
In the country.
Here's my Africa story. I had a sister that worked for me, and she went to, I think, Nigeria or Ghana, and came back after several months being there. When I first saw her, she said, "Hello, African." And so I said, "What you call me?" You know, because that was back when being called African was fighting words, right?
Right.
Back when being called Black was fighting words.
Yeah.
I said, "What you call me?" And she said, "Hello, African." And I thought about it. And I said, "Say that again. Hello, African." I said, say it again, because it was feeling so good.
Yeah.
Good.
And so the energy, the love, the feeling washes over you
100%.
and invites you and lifts you and gives you transformation and a renewal that sets you, as you say, on a life-changing career.
It's almost like a sense of belonging.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And so I call myself, because of that, Brother Scott, I describe myself as a New World African. I'm an African in the New World, you know. And to say I'm an African doesn't mean I'm not any of the other things I am.
Right.
I am an American. I was born here. I am a Jamaican. My grandfather's from there. I am Cuban because my father was born in Cuba, right? So I'm a Cuban. And I am Nigerian. I'm Yoruba because I've done the DNA, and the DNA places me in Yoruba land. And so I know that on my father's side, the patrilineal network goes to Ireland, Scotland. I'm Irish, I'm Scotch. It's okay. Yeah. It's all good. It's all in me. And I can rock with that, you know, and that's a good thing. Well, listen, I'm just excited. Let me remind people one more time that you are performing Clark and Scott tomorrow night with Wain, my brother Wain McFarlane, and actually another uncle of yours, Miles McFarlane, is going to be singing tomorrow. And that's going to be some kind of an event down at the Dakota. It's tomorrow night at 7:00, and you can still get tickets. Call down to the Guthrie. Listen, Chief O'Hara is here and getting set up. You guys, thank you so much. We'll see you later today. And let me just switch over and grab the chief, and we'll see you later. I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation with Al McFarlane. Pleased to have Chief Brian O'Hara. Chief, how you doing? Good to see you. Thank you. I know you got a jam-packed schedule, but thanks for taking the time to jump in here with us today.
Thank you so much, Al. I apologize. I'm a few minutes late. I was coming from another event with the mayor.
Not a problem. We understand that. I just wanted to take a minute to welcome you, to ask you about your priorities coming into Minneapolis. And I was telling somebody that you're coming out of Newark, you know, and Newark had a reputation, and you have been, from my understanding and reading, part of the reinvention of what public service, community service, policing as a service means, particularly for Black people. Am I saying that right or wrong?
Well, certainly I'm blessed in that I was able to play a role in that process. Newark is similar in some ways to Minneapolis in that it has had historically very serious problems around police and community relations. But also very serious challenges around gun violence and serious street crime. But beyond that, yes, Newark is a different place, right? Newark is a majority African-American city. The police force in Newark is actually 80% Black and brown. So certainly the context is somewhat different, but certainly in the issues that matter, having been a police officer in Newark for 22 years, I can tell you, policing in Newark today is dramatically different than what it was 5 years ago, let alone 10 or 15 years ago. And I think it's very clear if you talk to folks from the city, advocates, community-based groups there, I think they would say the same.
What's your strategy for engaging community groups here? What have you done there that you think you want to try and that you believe will deliver more confidence, more support, more awareness? I think, first of all, I think the notion that people are anti-police is blown out of proportion.
That's right.
I think that people here both respect and know
That's
they
right.
need the police and want
Yes.
police to be doing, but they want the police force to do the professional best job of service. And that's all
right.
they're asking for. So what
That's
do you
right.
think?
Well, since I've come here, I've been particularly struck how loving, how welcome, and really how open folks, particularly people of color, especially in North Minneapolis, have been to accepting me, but also, and rightfully so, in their demands for having more police. They simply just want good policing.
Right.
There are very serious issues around crime and violence, and certainly from what I have seen here, the people who are most affected in a very real sense by those issues, they want good policing and they deserve it. I think it's important moving forward that we work to ensure that we are engaging community in meaningful ways so that the public can be involved in public safety, but also that we are acknowledging when things do not go well, when they don't go according to plan, and being honest with community in that process.
I asked my guest prior to you, they're here from New Mexico, about the status of marijuana use legalization in that state, and my sense that Minnesota is likely going to decriminalize or legalize marijuana for adult use, maybe this session coming up. What are your thoughts on that? What's your attitude and your experience in handling marijuana in particular in the community, Black community in particular?
That's right. Well, certainly, historically, there are issues of disparity in enforcement with marijuana, as well as other issues that are very real. But from what I have experienced, the state of New Jersey legalized cannabis. Certainly, there's a difference when some folks are out in a place legally, using cannabis versus, when folks are out drinking alcohol and then getting angry and getting into fights. So I don't think it's something people should be afraid of just when they hear it because it sounds different. I think people should be open to considering that and not thinking that it's necessarily a public safety issue. However, at the same time, we need to ensure that community has a voice and that in some way, where there are issues, public safety issues in community that may be caused by illegal sales of marijuana, that there is still some way for government, for society to be able to respond to the folks who live in that community and who want something done about it. I think we just need to be open. We need to hear everyone's perspectives about it.
Quick thought on police community review. The discussion the past week was about merging of two systems into one. Where do you stand on that? What's going to happen?
Well, what's going to happen is determines how the governing body here votes. I think there are very clearly structural issues and there are problems. In terms of holding police officers accountable here, I think the community rightly is frustrated with the process, but I also think a lot of times the police officers and the unions here are rightfully frustrated as well. I think we need to, in a most basic sense, we need to be able to have a system that functions so that when officers behave in ways that are contrary to community values and standards that we adopt as professionals, that we are able to hold officers accountable. And it cannot be some long drawn out process that takes 2 or 3 years. Like, we need to be able to hold people accountable relatively close in time to when there's a violation. We need to then be able to act as managers and make adjustments accordingly. And we can't have our hands tied by some process that takes unreasonably long, because in that kind of situation, it is totally counterproductive. The community remains frustrated that there is no sense of change, no sense of accountability, but then also the officers remain frustrated because they have cases that are left open and pending for so long. So I think, to the extent possible, our goal should be to enhance accountability and to have everybody to be able to have a say in that process.
Chief, we're out of time already. I'm so glad we got a small conversation in, but this is the beginning, and I want to invite you back as often as you want, or as often as you can respond to my calls. So much more ground to cover. Thank you so much. Congratulations on your appointment, and welcome to Minneapolis. I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Al.